Remember, this show is PG-13, so you might hear a naughty word or two. Ever wish there was more like style, like in our floor routines? Like now there's a scale, so that's something. How are your scales?
Is it something?
Something. I don't know.
Have you seen gymnastics recently? Everyone knows that people that aren't doing, the jumps into the corner nicely, they've got their arms by their side, the ones that look kind of like they want to give up in this floor routine.
This month, Tumble Track is having a sale. 5% off carpet bonded foam and Love is in the Air sale. 10% off air products, my favorite. Visit Tumble Track at TUMBLTRAK tumbletrack.com. Train smart. Today, we have a guest who talks about judges not knowing the value of skills at major meets, broken equipment, the bus being so late you miss your whole warm-up, and testing anti-sex beds. World and Olympic champion Rhys McClenaghan of Ireland is here. Plus, NQS has begun. We will discuss it. And what happens when there is a fire smoking out an arena? Apparently nothing. We will tell you what happened. It is February 17th, 2025, and welcome to the number one gymnastics podcast in the galaxy. I'm Jessica, and I'm here with Spencer from the Balance Beam Situation. We are going to talk about some of the headlines first before we get to our interview with Rhys. There's an extended version of Rhys's interview, which is available to Gym Nerd members who support us all year round and support the work that we do. So if you guys want to hear the extended interview, that is available for you on your special private behind the scenes feed. Here's what we talked about on Collagen Cocktails on Friday, which is where we pick a meet, we watch it, and then we jump on live and chat with you guys and answer questions live and answer your email questions as well. And here's what we talked about the Georgia meet on Friday. We turned it on, and we can show you a video here from the local WSB TV video that they were sent of the fire outside the arena, which to me looks like someone set like a trash can on fire. Maybe it's a lot of smoke.
Really hard to say. I just see smoke.
Yeah, we can't really see. But I mean, I turned it on and I was like, why is it so smoky?
Maybe
like,
someone walked by the Suzanne statue and said, I love Sarah Patterson, and it just like burst into flames.
Oh, that's realistic, I think.
Maybe she's rigged it to just like, if someone says something incorrect, it's just the statue bursts into flames.
It was so smoky in there that I noticed, and it was like far enough along in the meet that I was like, wait a minute, this isn't from the like pyrotechnics. But the thing about it was not only was there smoke everywhere, the fire, so fire alarms have to also have a light because they have to be ADA and compliant.
In client? Yeah.
In client. You have
Collagen Cocktails. You have to be in client. Yes. It's fine.
Like Americans with Disabilities Acts, which is like, as in DEIA, accessibility. If there's a law, it has to have lights in case you can't hear the alarm go off. There has to be something else that notifies you. And so, the flashes, it was like laser beams. So we're always like, turn off the flashes on your phones. It could be an accident. But but Arkansas and Georgia were like, no, laser flashes that are literally an alarm telling you to exit the building. No, go ahead and compete. Do 2.5 events with the laser flashes going off.
So is this a thing that Emily Crawford says, I was at the Georgia meet, it was so smoky. Yeah, we have to talk about it a lot. She also says they are putting it out underground. They say it was leaves.
This is why you gotta rake your leaves. You can't let them be all in a grate and then someone tosses their cigarette butt out. People still do that. Toss a cigarette butt on the ground. Did you know that still happens?
I mean, I have seen sidewalks before, yes.
Emily says
they had half the arena evacuate, but kept the meet going. LOL. Yeah. So we saw when the broadcast starts, we see, and at first, so they tell us the pre-meet pyrotechnics that caused all the smoke. And then a Georgia spokesperson had to be like, it was not our fault. It was not our fault. It was not our fault. We didn't do anything wrong. We do this for every meet. It was a fire outside, and the smoke got in the arena, and then it was just smoky. And we saw like half the stands were empty when the meet was about to start because they had been evacuated, but not the gymnasts because, keep going.
No, definitely.
Walk it off.
An actual fire or smoke, which all smoke is toxic. Firefighters on here, back me up. I mean, I wasn't actually there, so maybe actually when you're in the arena, it, wasn't as bad. But I was like, what are we doing here? Where has the safety part of gymnastics? If you enjoyed that discussion, you can join us Friday or Saturdays. We have the full schedule's up. We'll put a link in the show notes so that you can add it to your calendar and never miss an episode. Okay, NQS is upon us.
Yes. We have moved into the part of the season where the college rankings actually are calculated the way they'll be calculated at the end of the season, where you get to pretend half your meets didn't happen because they're just do-overs. So NQS includes your 6 best scores, as long as 3 of them are at away meets, and then you drop the highest, and then you average the remaining 5, and that's how you get to your NQS. And that's why things can get a little funky the week that you swap over to NQS. For instance, like a normal person, perhaps a sane person who has like a life or other things that they're doing might say, wait a second, LSU was number 2 in the country, and then they defeated number 1 Oklahoma while scoring a 198, and they lost a spot in the rankings. And how does that make any sense? And the answer is, of course, it doesn't. But how that happens is we have UCLA moving into number 2 in the rankings because they have enough road meets now that they're able to drop that Oceanside meet, that first score that was that the bad one, the one bad one that they had to start the season. They can pretend that never happened now. And so that's off UCLA's NQS slate. So they moved up because they got rid of that. LSU still has 1 low road score. They don't have enough road meets yet to get rid of it from that loss to Arkansas. So they still have a low road score hanging around. So their NQS is a bit lower at this point than you would have expected based on their general performances throughout the season, whereas UCLA's more reflects their general performances throughout the season because they've been able to drop their bad one, and LSU hasn't yet. So that's why it's kind of strange that LSU can beat the number 1 team and get one of the highest scores in the country and fall in the rankings. But, when has college gymnastics ever done things in a straightforward or normal fashion? That's not what we're here for.
That's why I always said ignore the scores. It's the only way to enjoy the gymnastics. So
anyway, that's my way of saying LSU beat Oklahoma, which was the big news of the week. Number 2 defeating number 1.
And NQS rankings now are Oklahoma 1, UCLA 2, LSU 3, 4 is Utah, 5 is Florida, 6 is Cal, 7 is Michigan State, 8 is Missouri, 9 Kentucky, and then 10th Oregon State. So that's for now, but that's we still have, weeks left to go. And Jade Carey still leading the
Watch out for Oregon State and Jade Carey, because Oregon State, on the NQS topic of NQS road scores, they still have a 195 that they're counting as a road score. So once they get rid of that, we anticipate Oregon State will move up in the rankings. So they're kind of the team to watch this week in terms of who's going to just bust their way through the China shop that is the rankings and break everything along the way. And the answer is Jade Carey.
We also had a robust discussion on College and Cocktails on Friday about how the seal has been ripped off. The Band-Aid has been peeled away, tearing a lot of hair with it.
Gross.
On the 10s. The 10s were released this week. So there were as many 10s in one weekend as there were the entire 7 weeks so far. Or 6 weeks so far. So Rhys McClenaghan, bars, Kennedy Griffin, floor, Leanne Wong, beam with a hop, Sloane Blakely, floor, let's feet apart, Lily Hudson on floor. All of these, I feel like it's hard to tell from everyone's asking us what the 10iest 10 is of these, and I'm like,
and Jessica's like,
angle,
let me try to describe the 10s in the grossest way possible by talking about a Band-Aid ripping hair off.
So happy for these gymnasts and that they're successful performances and that they are happy, which is all that really matters to me. From the angle we could see them. Yeah. There are things, but they were very happy and that makes me happy. So that's what I have to say about that.
Jessica's cop-out analysis.
Yeah, pretty much. Because
instead of just coming on here and screaming, none of these are 10s, which I'm very happy to do.
I'm just, it's that point where I'm like, I want to stop just, crying about the same thing every single time because it's not going to change until the scoreboard are actually like allowed to do their jobs and actually control the judges, and actually rank the judges. And I'm just really excited for nationals when we'll get, many more judges. And so we should have more accurate scoring, I hope. We did have a conversation on College Cocktails about whether or not the removal of the judges' names from the scoreboard, which is the judging evaluation system group of judges who evaluate all the other judges, and if the score is over 9, if the fact that they've removed the judges' names from the review system, if that has, suddenly we got as many 10s as there were the whole season in one weekend. So correlation is not causation, but I feel like it is.
It could also, on that note, it wasn't just that they're not including the judges' names. It was the judges aren't getting any feedback about it this season, which is also like, oh, no one's going to send me an email telling me I did a bad job. Ooh, everyone likes that.
Yeah,
the promise that you're not going to get a follow-up email about what you did. Relaxing. Give it a 10.
No grades. It is a audit only class. I think, I don't know. They're still gathering the data. They're still doing a study. They're still going to use these scores and present it to the NCAA and be like, we have to have a judging supervisor, a referee supervisor. Like, we're the only sport that doesn't have it. It's insane. So no matter what happens, it's going to be proven that this is needed. So I'm like, whatever you have to do, I feel like it's almost better if people aren't as worried. And I'm not saying they're doing this consciously. I'm not saying that the judges are trying to not do their jobs. And again, I'm saying we can't see the judge's angle, and that's super important. But yeah, no matter what, the study's still happening. The data is still being collected. So there will be a result that shows accuracy or not at the end of the season anyway. So that's the most important thing, because that benefits everyone, not just some people.
Do you think it's possible that simply the quality of routines improved this weekend over the weekends before, and that's why we doubled the number of 10s?
I feel like yes, that's possible. It is. I definitely noticed like some of the teams this weekend, like they were dancing more, and they're like actually dancing instead of just standing and posing in their floor routines. There was people were more comfortable. I feel like, the teams that have gotten over their flu are doing better, all of that stuff. So it's possible. It's possible. But I feel like
it wasn't. But I'm gonna finish that sentence for you. It wasn't your experience watching these 10s.
No.
That they were discernibly different from the 9925 that those same routines got 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I'm saying we can't see it from the judge's angle. So, but yeah.
Doesn't mean those deductions you saw didn't happen.
I know. Exactly.
There is such a thing as objective reality.
Objective reality? What? No one in the United States right now has ever heard of that. I don't know what you're talking about. Objective reality. Okay. I want to talk about some Gym4Net news, but first, some updates. So we have a new thing that Spencer wanted to do, which is he is doing a watch along before College and Cocktails on Fridays. So if you're a Club Gym Nerd member, this is a way you can support Spencer and hop on and hang out with Spencer and listen to his hilarious jokes while he watches beats. It's very enjoyable. We're giggling along the whole time. So Spencer, what time are you starting this week?
We'll start at the same time, so that'll be 4 p.m. Pacific on Friday with the Friday Night Heights meets, and we'll do that through until we start College and Cocktails, which is going to be about Florida against Oklahoma this week. So we'll start College and Cocktails at 7:30 Pacific again, right after Florida against Oklahoma. The big question of that meet is, how mad is Oklahoma going to be? Like a lot mad or like a whole lot mad? That's what I'm looking forward to see.
Because there's a lot of mad after Oklahoma competed at LSU. There's a lot of angry. We are on Blue Sky. If you don't know, it's an alternative to Twitter without the Nazi who runs it. And there are great starter packs on there on Blue Sky. Like Greg Marsden has one where it's all the college teams and just gymnastics media. So check it out. We are enjoying it very much. And you can put videos on there. College and Cocktails this week, the NCAA Gymnastics post-meet show. Bring a friend. Thanks to everybody that's been bringing a friend. We pick a meet, watch it all together.
Especially friends who don't understand what's going on. That's the best. Those are the best kinds of friends. Your questions are like, why? But why? And that's a fair question.
Is the choreography the team does on the side part of what gets judged, or is it they're just judging the team on the floor? Yeah, it's excellent questions. So this week we're watching Florida versus Oklahoma on Friday, and then College and Cocktails immediately after at 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 Eastern time.
Correct.
And there is a calendar in the show notes. You can click on it, add it to your Apple or Google Calendar, and never miss an episode. Also, Fantasy Gymnastics this week. Don't forget to set your lineups on Friday afternoon. Gymternet news. The USA Gymnastics streaming schedule is out. Mm-hmm. Spencer, you are pleased with this.
I feel like it's kind of what the general fan public has wanted from USAG meets, which is it's free on YouTube and not geo-blocked. So it's a very accessible schedule. The only things that are behind the FlipNow paywall are going to be podium training and World Selection Camp. But the competitions for Winter Cup, Classic, Championships are free to stream on YouTube, which is great.
My favorite thing that happened this week is that Frida Esparza, Queen of Bars at UCLA, played the national anthem on guitar with just an amp in the middle of the floor, wearing her Pride Leo. It was the Pride meet, which they called a Pride meet because some teams, and we've mentioned that before, like Maryland and Pitt, are not acquiescing in advance. UCLA is having a Pride meet, and with the flags, all the things. So she played in her Pride Leo in her Black Lives Matter shirt in the middle of the floor, and it was epic and amazing. And you guys go to the UCLA or Frida's Instagram and send it to all your friends. Send it everywhere. This is the moment we need to help make actually go viral, not like when everyone's like, buy this viral brush made out of plastic, it'll change your life. You're like, that never went viral. Real viral. I can't. I
thought you were going to talk about when teams describe their floor routines as going viral, and it's like one person shared it.
Yeah, yeah. It's something like it has to be. I don't know what the new metric is. We used to have an actual metric, like 1 million views in 24 hours or something was viral. But just share it a lot. I hate viral's dead, but
we're not doing viral anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
The real testament to a floor routine is if no one watches it. That means it's really good. None of this smiling or wiggling. Just be grumpy and on a not famous team, and no one will watch it, and it'll be perfect.
Ursinus for the win, you guys. That's the team you should be watching. Irina Viner and Alina Kabaeva. Remember, I told you what was going on, where Irina Viner has been in charge of rhythmic in Russia forever, and she runs. It's not just that Irina Viner runs rhythmic in Russia. She runs rhythmic basically for the world. She is the most powerful person in rhythmic gymnastics, period. And there's a whole documentary just about what an asshole she is. And it's called Over the Limit. And it's just her being abusive to the eventual Russian Olympic champion in rhythmic the whole time. Even from a hospital bed. She is also married to one of the oligarchs who had all of his boats and properties and yachts, whatever, stripped when Russia invaded Ukraine. And so anyway, Alina Kabaeva, who's also an Olympic champion in rhythmic, who is the rumored romantic partner of Putin, with whom she is rumored to have 2 kids with him. She started her own. She basically made a push to take over Russian rhythmic. And now it's happened. She pushed out Viner. Viner resigned as the head of Russian rhythmic gymnastics. This is, in rhythmic gymnastics, this is the equivalent of, what could I compare it to? If there was just I don't know, Oklahoma invaded LSU and took over their gym and was just practicing in it and like, you can't come in. That's what it's like. Yeah, it's huge. And my question for you, Spencer, is how fast is another country going to snatch her up, and which country?
Oh, I mean, no. Don't.
Which country does not care about anything but
Ooh.
winning in rhythmic?
I mean, Russia.
Belarus?
Okay, she could go to Belarus.
Bulgaria?
I thought you were
Yeah.
going to say, like, which country does not care? And I was like, oh, France. If anything I know about the French Federation.
Yeah, there's, yeah.
They do that.
Yeah, France would definitely be the one. Yeah, so anyway, you guys, it's massive. This is totally shocking. We are going to talk to the amazing Rhys McClenaghan of Ireland, world champion, then Olympic champion, the Prodigy. Rhys, I'm just
Jessica's
so proud of that.
favorite Mix Zone interview. Your favorite ambassador of men's gymnastics. I think all of our favorite ambassador of men's gymnastics.
He is. And like, I am also, it's one of those people that, you know, I named the Prodigy. That was the nickname I gave for him, and all of it came true. Olympic champion, then
good job taking
world
credit.
champion.
Jessica's gonna intro the interview. Let me start introing the interview by taking credit for all of his accomplishments.
I'm just saying, you know, sometimes when I was like, Lori Hernandez is going to make the Olympic team, when she was a junior, and everyone's like, okay, Jessica, calm down. But she did. I'm just saying. So anyway, sometimes I'm right about things. And this interview was recorded with him on January 28th when he's mid Dancing with the Stars, Ireland, and shooting right now. And they're doing very well. His team.
Well, obviously, he's the Prodigy, as you told us.
Right.
One of the four gymnasts to be Olympic, world, and European champion on a single apparatus, reigning Olympic champion, as we know, and reigning two-time world champion. So he's kind of got a streak going there. And as Jessica would like you to know, because you can't talk about Rhys without mentioning it, he had that video where he tested out the anti-sex beds at the Tokyo Olympics. And you were like, this is what he's most famous for. And he's like, pommel horse? And you're like, no, testing out the anti-sex beds. So I'm assuming you guys are going to talk about that also in this interview. I have a hunch.
He has an update for us about that. Good. You are so smart with your social media, and you are so wise in all the ways that you can make people aware of your presence as an excellent athlete outside of actual gymnastics. Like going back to the Tokyo anti-sex beds, the cardboard bed jumping up and down.
Oh, the highlight of my career, you mean?
That was so genius. So without, obviously I don't want to pry, it's your private life, but you know, did you get to test these?
No. I've had a girlfriend for 5 years now, so no. I didn't,
she's not allowed in the village.
No, she's not allowed. Well, she came into the village and along with my parents and just had like a look around, but yeah, there's no time, I guess. And that kind of thought of you saying you don't see me in competitions, like those are, again, those little decisions that myself and Luke make prior to the competition. So the likes of walking out, I know that pommel horse might be the third event, and if I was to walk out, that would be like 30 minutes, 45 minutes of like standing in a walkway, like walking out to the crowd, waving at the crowd, and then it's interrupting my whole warm-up. So I do, like, after qualifications, often people are like, why didn't you walk out? Are you not competing? Are you injured? Like trying to come up with all these scenarios. But I was like, no, I just wanted to do my warm-up and uninterrupted. And a lot of the time in competitions, you'd have the volunteers running up to you being like, you need to walk out right now. And I'm like about to do one of my half routines in training, and they're like, no, you need to go now. And we're like, no, we don't need to go now. And we always have to be so calm because we're about to compete. We don't want to get like angry at them if they're like literally trying to push us out into the arena. We're like, no, we're allowed to do this. It's fine.
But this is what I wanted to ask you about. I have this in my notes because I was like, I think you did not walk out in the Olympics in qualification, which is not a normal thing. And I heard that there might have been like some discussion where it's like not actually a rule, but you're the only person that doesn't do it because you're so honed in on what you have to do. And is that true that there was like some discussion before the meet?
Yeah, there's every competition. I think Luke has a discussion with somebody or the other. I don't know who he discusses with, but it's more like it's for the benefit of the gymnast, you know.
Right.
So if you have this interruption in the middle of your warm up, that nobody else is really getting because they are doing all 6 events. If a specialist is being pulled out of the middle of their warm up and then having to walk back into the warm-up hall. Sometimes the warm-up halls are really far away from each other compared to the competition arena.
Yep.
Like it's always an issue because the volunteers are just told, you know, clear this gym. Nobody should be left in the gym, but then they aren't obviously considering the specialists. So it's quite often always me just in the gym by myself, and then the other specialists will kind of concede and be like, okay, I'll go out and do my walkout, but often they're with a team as well, so that's another aspect that I don't need to worry about. It's at a lot of competitions. So yeah, there's always like a little moment of calmness in that warm-up hall. It's always so chaotic, but then it just all of a sudden is myself and Luke when everyone else are walking out and getting announced. And yeah, it's just that phrase of in the benefit of gymnasts, you know, it's in so many deductions in the code of points, but it's also, I'm sure, in many ethics books, and you know, the kind of morality around the sport is in the benefit of the athlete. So I feel like that is kind of what's, you know, where the backbone of this is, where Luke gets the confidence to go up and say, no, he's not walking out, actually, no matter how persistent the organizers are of the events. And then, you know, I'm switched off from it. I can like switch my ears off and not listen to like a heated argument because I'm just sitting focusing on my pommel work. But in terms of like any mind games, it's like, it's not so much blatant mind games, but there's just certain strategic moves that you pull to maybe not show all of the cards that you've been dealt, if you get me. I mean, my routine is a perfect example. You know, I was doing a 6-4 difficulty for that whole Olympic cycle for that whole year, and then the highest difficulty routine I'd ever competed was at the Olympic Games final. And I don't know, that might have made a difference. If I was competing that routine or sharing it online, I'm always very cagey about what I share online. You know, if I shared that, maybe people would have bumped up their difficulty and taken the risk, and then the risk might have paid off in that Olympic Games, and then I would have been bested. So it's just those little tiny decisions that I think might make a difference. They might have not, but it's also worthwhile doing for an Olympic gold medal.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it definitely paid off. You did it.
Yeah. But people would also see it in a way like, that was Rhys taking the risk of doing that, his most difficult routine he'd ever competed at the Olympic Games final. But at the same time, I had done that routine for that whole 2 years leading up to it. I was doing that routine with no like hesitation, more or less. And even the year prior to that, you know, I could have upgraded the world routine. I chose not to, but it paid off. All those little decisions, they really do just add up.
Well, you know what they say is, you know, pusillanimouses will never be heroes. So you have to go for it. That makes the difference.
I don't know what that statement
means.
I
try to say pussies will never be heroes anymore, so I say pusillanimouses. Like, that's how I've changed it, because
okay.
Yeah, I had to learn what that was.
I've never heard that word before.
Yeah, I know. I had to learn it because I was like, oh, what? It's basically like weak. A weak mind will not be a hero, and so new phrase for you. It is. I had to learn it too. I was like Googling, what does that mean? Yeah, I didn't come up with it. It's not mine, but that's what we say now. The skill of turning off and being able to do that. How did you develop that? Or is it just like your will? Because you've been saying you're going to do this. I want to be an Olympic champion. I want to be a world champion for so long.
Yeah, it's a bit of everything. Like, I think first and foremost is like educating myself on psychology throughout my entire career. You know, I often see mornings as like learning mornings, where I'll wake up and like have my breakfast and be watching like psychology lectures, or you know, reading a book about psychology, and all of this is in the benefit of like moments that matter, that when it happens, because you can't really prepare for a moment until it does happen. So you got to just prepare for anything, and then when something crazy happens, whether that be I don't know, like the world championships in Kitakyushu, where that was just like such a huge disruption, or you know, even falling on an event, or there's always something that goes wrong in the competition. And
because before you competed, was that when they had a COVID positive, so they had to like come out, all the people came in that hazmat suits and like went around cleaning everything?
Yeah, that was crazy. That was a crazy event. But like you have to just push it to the side and just chalk it down to one of those experiences. But yeah, there's always something that goes wrong in competitions, whether that be like a bus being late, or like the timings get pushed forwards, or I don't know, like the crazy story I think was in 2019 World Championships. We were driving to the competition arena, and they like closed down the roads for, I think it was like Oktoberfest or something.
Yeah.
The roads are just closed, and we were like, all right, we're going to be a little bit late here for my first world final. What do we do? And we were just like sitting in standstill traffic. We were like, we could just like abandon the car. We could jump on one of those electric scooters and go to the arena that way. And we're just thinking of all these scenarios. And as we were sitting in the car during my warm-up time, I was like just scrapping a lot of my warm-up in my head, but like in a really calm way. So I was like, all right, so I'll not get physio treatment before that. Okay, maybe I'll just I'll do a shorter run around. I'll just like miss most of my stretch and just stretch my wrists. And then as the time went on, we like showed up like so late. We walked into the door, and everybody in that final was already on pommel horse, like practicing. And we were walking into the door with my backpack on and my fully clothed. And we were like, okay, well, let's do this. So I'd done this like super fast warm up. And then as I was just putting my wrist guards on for pommel warm up, the volunteers came up and were like, so we're going to make the walkouts 20 minutes early. And then I was putting on my wrist straps, like, okay, so I'm going to get like 2 goes on pommel. That's fine. That's all right. And then Luke was like pulling to the side so that he didn't like come across as really stressful around me, but he was just talking to them, being like, you're not going to do that. This is absolutely ridiculous. You can't make it like 20 minutes early. And they kept coming up and saying like it's going to be pushed forward, like it's going to be earlier than it was. And each time they said that, I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll just do one warm up. It's okay. And then I had to like cut my warm up completely in half and then go out and do the routine. But it went well.
Oh my God, that's wild. Okay, this is the other thing I want to ask you about, because I hadn't really thought before about the stress. Like, there's a certain amount of stress on you as an individual, and there's so much stress because you have your one event, but you also welcome that in a lot of ways. That's just you. Like, since the beginning of talking to you when we first came up with the Prodigy for you, like you've been like, yes, I am here for this. I never thought of like the stress of like, you know, with the team, you have all the team dynamics, you have the individual dynamics, you have the team schedule you have to do, there's so many other moving parts to it.
I mean, I'd love to say I'd be a good teammate, but I don't really know what that looks like because my whole career I haven't been a teammate. I've been a great teammate to Luke, and Luke's been the same to me. And I've now got training partners back home, you know, the likes of Eamon Montgomery, and we work together in the training gym. But then when we go to compete together, like we kind of just stared of each other's way. And like Eamon's my best friend, but when it comes to competition, we don't really like. I don't even cheer him on that much. He knows like he doesn't really need to cheer me on that much because we're kind of just doing our own thing. And I guess that's probably crazy for an American to hear. I know. you guys don't cheer each other on. You want to kill each other. But it's just for us. We've talked about it before. We're like, I'm not doing a pommel routine being like, oh, I really hope Eamon says, "Come on, Rhys, you got this," in the middle of my palm routine, because it's just like it doesn't make rational sense for me. You're loving this. You're thinking about all the guys cheering each other on in team final, and it'll just be me silent.
Honestly, sometimes I'm just like, how do you guys have energy, the American men especially, to do all around and scream the whole time? I need a nap just watching you scream that loud. How do you have the extra energy for the screaming? Oh my God, that's so funny. But it's true that like a really good team dynamic is when you know each other well enough to know when to shut up and when to approach. Like that,
100%.
Right, like a good coach. Did you have any of the problems in Paris like other people had with like the rain and mold and the air conditioning situations?
Yeah, like in a way, but we had like aircon. That worked fine actually, but it was Paris heat was like a different kind of heat. I mean, especially for an Irish person, like I just felt warm the entire time I was there. And the one place that was like cool was my room because of the aircon. But it was a very warm Olympics for sure.
Yeah, it was. There was one day I was like, oh my God. Although Japan was like, do you see? Because in Tokyo, I don't know if you could see where you guys came in, but the asphalt was melting outside. That's how hot it was.
Jeez. Yeah, in Tokyo it was really humid in Tokyo. I remember that because I would sit outside and like meditate a lot of the time and like do breath work, and I couldn't do it. I like took a couple of breaths outside. I was like, nope, no, I feel like I'm suffocating. So
yes,
I had to do my meditation inside in the aircon, but it just isn't the same as like a nice crisp Irish morning.
Speaking of crazy humidity, what are your thoughts about Indonesia and Jakarta Worlds?
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I wonder why they chose there.
Me too.
I'm not really complaining. It seems like I'm always looking to go to new places and experience new things. So, I mean, I was in Bali recently there in December. So It won't be my first time in Indonesia technically, but Bali seems like a separate place to mainland, I guess. But that'll be cool worlds, I hope.
Yeah. I think it's great that they're having it in so many more places. Yeah. So I'm wondering if we're going to have days like when Worlds were in Doha, where just the dining hall flooded and the buses were in water.
Buses were floating around.
Yeah.
That's right. I remember that. That was good.
What is like the craziest meet or hotel circumstance that you have run into? Just for like...
It was without hesitation, Kitakushu. That was the craziest worlds. That was horrible. I never ever leave competitions being like that was bad, but this was an exception. So we were locked in the hotel.
Yes!
No two ways about it. We were locked there, and there's just something about your as a human, you don't want to be locked away. I mean, it was quite apparent because we put people in jail for crimes. I mean, I just felt like I got imprisoned in that competition, and the room was tiny. It was this little tiny box room. They were so strict with all of the rules. It was suffocating, really. And then like the meals that we got were absolutely terrible. I definitely lost like so much weight when I was out there because we would get for breakfast these little pack lunches, and it would be like one leaf of lettuce, an orange slice, like a raw sausage, like a raw tiny sausage, and then half of a boiled egg, and that would be our breakfast. I'm not even joking. It was just in a little Tupperware container, and that would be breakfast every single day. And just from there, it was just like, this is literally worse than prison.
Did you have security in the like lobby of your hotel? Because we had these dudes that they were like security, but they also like didn't have I don't know, they just seemed like someone's friends who showed up and kept telling us not to go anywhere. Like they were very helpful and polite, but like we had like 4 dudes always making sure we didn't go out.
We were the same. It was completely locked down, like and they wouldn't let us anywhere near the exits. And you're right. It's a weird dynamic because they're so polite and they're so nice, but then they're such sticklers for rules. Like me and Luke are always trying to just like push the boundaries. Like, can we go outside, get some fresh air? They're like, no.
Yep.
And we're like, you're not like budging at all. We're like trying to charm them. They're like, oh, no.
Yep. Like we finally got to the point where we could we made friends enough with them that like we could ask them to get us food because we couldn't. I mean, like we had, like Kensley has all her food allergies and stuff, and also like just wasn't enough calories. Like literally, even though we brought lots of stuff with us, like, and I can't even imagine for you, like you need so many calories and so much protein, so many carbs, especially like, you don't want to lose weight at Worlds. Oh my God, that's so bad. And we finally made friends so they could like get us stuff. And then we're like, can we just sit outside while we eat this? Which is also like not so, I don't know. I was like, is this super rude to eat our food like by the bus?
In Japan, yeah.
But we finally were able to do that at the end. So we got like a little outside time.
Mm-hmm. No, it was a crazy world. And then, loads of people were kind of messaging me, people that have been to like 5 or 6 worlds. They're like, trust me, guy, this is the worst Worlds ever. So I was, and because it would have only been, I guess it was like my 3rd World Championships, but I was just like, is this normal in any way? Like, am I complaining a lot, or, was I just like in a really bad mood that whole trip? But looking back, I was like, no, it was pretty justified to feel really uneasy there.
Yeah. I think I didn't anticipate it was going to be worse than Tokyo. Like I thought, we've already been through Tokyo. It won't be that bad. And I just have to do my job. It's not like what you guys have to do is so much harder. But then it really made me mad when I heard of all of people from a certain country who I traveled with there. Let me just tell you, we were on the plane with the Russians. One of the guys had a switchblade that he tried to bring on the plane. And I was like, what is happening? This guy flew from Russia with a knife on the plane? Okay, and then we're sneaking out. Like they did not follow the rules. And I was like, we are being so good and trying to protect you, the athletes, and the people in Japan. And like so many people afterwards I heard were just all over. They just did whatever they want. And I was like, how did you guys sneak out?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know how anybody snuck out. Like it was impossible to.
Yes.
We literally had security guards.
Right. I don't know how they did it, but I heard afterwards there was like 3 different countries that got out. Did you also have to do the phone check thing where it would like randomly call you and FaceTime you?
Yeah, they would just like call you just to make sure you're there. Like it was the craziest thing. It was the craziest trip. I almost, when I came back and the next time I was in a hotel, I like walked down the corridor and felt like I had like PTSD from a corridor because I was like, that was the only place we could be, or like walk up and down. Like I would have walked up and down the corridor just to walk and stretch my legs, but I would have done that for 20 minutes. I felt like an insane person walking up and down a corridor.
Yeah, and everything's so little there. I remember like my bag didn't fit in the room. It was like had to be on the bed. Like that's how small, just to tell people how small. And it's like, it's great. Like it's a different culture. We love experiencing this, but like I feel like I didn't realize it was going to be so different from Tokyo and like, so stressful.
I was the same, but I'm happy to like push it aside and be like, okay, just another experience of life.
Anything that happens in the future, you're going to be like, I went to Kitakyushu Worlds. Are you kidding?
Literally.
Club Gym Nerd, you get discounts and first dibs on live show tickets, an extra whole podcast every week, athlete dossiers for major competitions, code guides, options to commission your own segments. It also makes a great gift. Check it out at GymCastic.com at the Join the Club tab.
I have brought a fact checker in because the 2 of us are using Lumen. It's the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that helps you measure your metabolism through your breath with an app. So it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs. It gives you tailored guidance on your nutrition, workout, sleep, even stress management.
I do it in the morning to check, and you just blow into this device and it gives you a simple reading. The app is really nice. It's super easy to use. It's just like a little gauge from like 1 to 5, telling you whether you're burning carbs or fat. When I finish my workout, I blow into it again, and then it'll tell me whether or not I need to like light on the carbs or more carbs or eat whatever I want based on how hard the workout was. And so if you're a data nerd, which I know all the listeners are, and you've already done like fitness trackers and things, this thing is awesome because it, as you know, everybody's different. And this thing will let you know how your body responds to things independently. You actually have the data to show you what your body's doing.
Also, if you're like me, where I'm just like trying to keep as much muscle as possible on my body at all times, this is so helpful for tracking that. Or if it also has settings for if you're pre-diabetic, it's great.
Take the next step to improving your health. Go to lumen.me/GymCastic to get 20% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/GymCastic for 20% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. It's time to take your nutrition to the next level. Meet Huel, today's sponsor. That's HUEL. The global complete nutrition brand trusted by over 400 million people. Their Black Edition ready to drink, which is Jessica's favorite, is a total game changer, a complete meal in a bottle that's high in protein, low in sugar, and packed with all the nutrients your body needs to feel and perform at its best. And right now, new customers can try it for 15% off plus a free gift using our exclusive offer at huel.com/gymcastic.
I am totally enjoying this because one, I don't like to cook anything and I always forget that it's time to eat and then I get hangry. And so I love that, like, especially on Mondays when there's a ton to do, that I can literally just like run upstairs, grab one of these, and that's a whole lunch. And I actually, it is good. It tastes good. It tastes like a milkshake, like a chocolate or vanilla milkshake, but it's like super low sugar, so you actually feel good after. The protein is good because I'm always trying to get as much protein as I possibly can, you guys, because, you know, gains. I love gains. So I'm totally enjoying it. I know you guys are too, because I've heard from people that have made their first Huel purchase and are liking it. So thank you.
If you don't believe Jessica, take the leap with this exclusive offer for new customers of 15% off plus a free gift with our exclusive offer at huel.com/gymcastic. That's 15% off plus a free gift for new customers with our exclusive offer at huel.com/gymcastic. Unlock a healthier, easier way to eat with Huel, nutritionally complete meals in minutes so you can focus on what really matters.
Do you ever wish there was more like style, like in our floor routine? Like now there's a scale, so that's something. How are your scales?
Is it something?
It's something. I don't know.
Have you seen gymnastics recently? I mean, I guess the World Cups haven't happened, but my God.
The college guys are competing now, so they're doing it here. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you can tell you haven't worked on a scale. You are not from the scale generation. That was skipped your generation.
I do agree. Like, there needs to be a little bit more artistry in floor routines. I feel like they can could they do like a 0.3 bonus thing for artistry? And it's an easy 0.3 to get, but if somebody is really bad, you know, everyone knows that people that aren't doing, you know, the jumps into the corner nicely, they've got their arms by their side, the ones that look kind of like they want to give up in this floor routine, that kind of like aura around them, like that should be where the 0.3 deduction comes in or 0.3 bonus goes. But a scale, I don't think that's the one.
That's not quite capturing the what they want about artistry and like looking like you give a shit about not just walking into the corner. Yeah, because
people don't give a shit about the scale, and when they're doing it, it's so obvious.
Yes,
they're like, oh, time to do a triple back, land it, and then time to do a scale.
Where it makes such a difference when someone finishes, like you're saying, and then they're doing like an actual like stag jump into the corner, and it can look like so artistic and beautiful and like and masculine, you know, if that's what people are concerned about. Yeah, and
even what do you call it?
The hitch kick.
The Hungarian gymnast. There's a Hungarian gymnast that just does like the cartwheel down the side, a jump full turn to prone. It's like that should be tick. You got the 0.3 bonus, or I'm speaking hypothetically with that 0.3, but like, you know, that's it. That makes the routine like, oh, that's a nice artistic routine. But yeah, the person that's kind of like rolling onto one knee and then like dropping their arms by their side, taking like 3 breaths and then stepping into the corner, that's shouldn't be rewarded in any way. But at the core of it is artistic gymnastics, and it needs to be performed in a nice, beautiful way. And it should be in the rules somewhere to perform it nicely.
There is like this IOC mandate that like men's and women's sports have to come into line with like the requirements, and so like they have done some of that in like with trampoline and artistic and a little bit, but rhythmic, they're off on their own. You know, they're on their own planet. But what kills me about watching men's floor, like you're saying, is the women have to make everything look so easy, and then the men can do floor and look like they hate this, it's stupid, but they're gonna get in the corner anyway, but this is dumb, and they resent it, and they're gonna let you know before they do their amazing pass. And I'm like, how's that fair? How's that fulfilling the IOC mandate?
Yeah. I completely agree. And yeah, I'm not sure what decisions are going to be made. I don't think the balance should stay, or I don't think it will stay, actually. I think they'll get rid of it. I think they'll see that it's too static. It's too, like, floor is all about dynamic movements, and if you just like kind of stop the momentum like that with a 3-second balance, I mean, it's ultimately going to take around 6 seconds, you know, especially with how bad people do that, like the arabesque or whatever. They're like wobbling into it for 3 seconds, holding it for 3 seconds, and then like wobbling out of it. It's just like, it doesn't make sense for a floor routine for it to be like this huge dynamic tumbling passes. And I love the rule changes around the kind of double somersaults implementing in floor, but then it's like, okay, stop, do this really easy balance in this Olympic level floor routine, and then continue with this really difficult floor. Like it doesn't make sense to me.
I love your idea, and I think you should present this to the FIG. You should be the athlete rep and present this. I elect you. Make it happen, Rhys. Put it in a dream.
I think a lot of people are thinking the same thing. I don't think this is a unique idea by any means.
But who has the ability to make it happen? I believe in you, because you have made all your dreams come true so far. So I think if you put your mind to it, this is something you could do.
Okay, I'll try my best.
Best after party at a meet, World Cup, anything around the world.
2022 is pretty cool. That was a good one because in Liverpool they kind of had like a big function room like booked out for everybody, and there's this, you'll find this funny too. Luke and Stephen Netarosik played a game of chess on this like gigantic chessboard. And they were both taking it like super seriously. It was hilarious, and we just like I knew straight away. I was like, Stephen's gonna trounce him here. He's gonna beat him so bad. But it was a long enough game, but it was a good one to watch. And then like, yeah, after the chess playing, etc., like everyone just kind of had a dance and party, and yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Okay, wait. So set the scene. Is there like a giant chessboard and people are dancing all around it, or was this like totally separate?
No, this is totally separate. This is like, it's just this huge function room. There's like foods, there's drinks, like a dance floor and a stage and everything like that. But like, it's so nice, like honestly spending time with the other gymnasts, and everyone's celebrating, no matter if it was a good competition or a bad competition. Everyone's kind of like, you know, let's celebrate together. It's very rare that we're all in the same room together, but we all share very similar lives. So it's never fails to kind of make me feel really good and make me feel like a part of that gymnastics community. So those after parties are so essential for something like that, where and you know, the Japanese love a good party. I must admit that's the funniest thing to see, because they're the most like grounded, lovely people, seem so sensible all the time, and then they start to party and they just go crazy, and I love it. It's such a joy to watch every single time.
Who are the best people on the dance floor? Like really good dancers. I don't mean like the ones that just get drunk and go crazy. Like who can actually dance.
It's normally myself and Eamon that kind of are always jumping in the middle of it. It's really funny, and it only happens at gymnastics meets. It's hilarious. Like everyone creates a circle just naturally of like who's gonna dance in the circle, and then like this never happens in like a club or a night out. I don't know about the States, but
it happens here. It happens in the US. Yeah, it's very weird. I find it so strange, but it happens here.
But it does happen all the time, because at gymnastics meets, it's like everyone just makes a circle, and that's the way it stays for the entire night. Like no word of a lie. Yeah, the whole time. There's always one little circle somewhere, and it's just an opportunity for somebody to go and dance. But then there's always somebody that does a backflip, and everyone's like, okay, we can all do it.
But who does it in heels? Have you ever seen the video of Simone doing it in a dress and heels?
Yeah, that's impressive. Fair play there. I've been dancing in those Latin shoes, which are like pretty thick heels, and I'm worried I'm gonna roll my ankle every single time.
Dude, you need to be like who is it? Zendaya? You know the actress Zendaya?
Yeah.
She was on Dancing with the Stars, and she refused to wear the shoes. She said, "No, I'm doing sneakers the entire time, like till the very end," because she was like, "No, this is not healthy for me."
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, I have. And thankfully, Spider-Man was in like Converse, because there was a lot of flips and tricks. But yeah, I would have wrecked myself if I was in the Latin shoes.
So I know you mentioned Sam Oldham's show and like the stories that he's been telling, and like I love it. Like I love the stories he tells, because there's so many things that I've never really heard people talk about. And like one of the things that was so fascinating to me is his coach pointed out to him how people would make sure they had a positive relationship with the judges in order to have a positive association, show his respect to the judges, like say hello, like have a rapport and stuff like that. Is there anything like that you've seen where you're just like either that looks suspicious, or like, oh, I can see why this person is doing this?
Yeah, for sure. It's quite common in gymnastics to kind of, at least for me, to see people being very, very friendly with certain people to just be in their good books, or to get an upper hand in competition. If a decision is on the line, whether or not to give a 0.3 deduction or a 0.1 deduction, it probably helps if you like the person that you're deciding this for. I don't think it should be like that at all. I try and be respectful to everybody I talk to, whether that be coach, gymnast, or judge. So I'm never particularly nice to somebody for a certain reason, because I feel like that's quite morally wrong in my eyes. But it certainly happens. And, you can't go around telling people like, no, you can't be nice to people. You can't be nice to that person because they're making decisions for you. Like, go ahead, be nice. But it is very obvious that certain gymnasts, certain coaches, you're like, you're being awfully nice to that specific person, and you're not that nice to me or to other gymnasts or whatever. So yeah, there's definitely like things like that. I've never seen really blatant cheating before. There's been scores here and there that haven't really made mathematical sense, and I guess that just comes any occasion like that where that's really frustrated me or not made sense to me. I've kind of just come to the realization of the subjectivity of gymnastics. Even though quite a lot of deductions are black and white, the judges don't often count them up as being black and white like that. So it's an interesting journey going down that rabbit hole, and I've thought many times like Sam is thinking about, or he's verbalizing it a lot of times, and but I would never be scared to kind of talk about my thoughts on it. The way people are often like, well, I'm not going to talk about this because I'm still in the sport. I don't feel any kind of fear of talking out about cheating, or if somebody's bending the rules in any way, because I feel like it always needs to be said if it is happening.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we've seen really good change when people have spoken up, like at 2017 Worlds when there was the hole in the floor. And
my teammate Andy Smith as well, he was, I think
Andy
he broke the floor. I've got to run a joke that he was the one that broke the floor.
But it was Bart Dulo who did during his routine was like, what is this? And like stopped and looked at the judges and were like, hey, this is it. And I was like, oh, this is so not gymnastics, like polite bowing, like, being like following the rules military. Oh my God, what's happening? And it was so interesting that after he did that, I talked to so many athletes, and especially the women, and they're like, oh yeah, there's a hole in the warm-up gym floor too. It's been here the whole time. And I'm like, didn't anyone say anything? Like, no, we just tumbled around it.
Yeah, you're so right. There is like a weird fear around that, and I've seen it many times before, because I've often been. It kind of ties in with what we were talking about earlier about the being benefit of the gymnast, why I missed the warm-ups, and like it might come across as kind of entitled for me to even sit back and be like, well, no, I'm not doing the walkout, but I feel like it's an entitlement that does come with just being a gymnast. It's not like being a certain status of gymnast. If anybody has issues with the equipment, with a walkout time, like vocalize it, say, I believe this isn't right, prove me wrong. So like I've done it with the pommel horse in 2018, when lightening the handles, we're like hearing the crunching sound. It was in podium training, it was like crunching. I was like, that doesn't sound right. And what happened was, when Luke was tightening the handles, it was breaking the middle of the pommel. So imagine the pommel shaped like this, the middle was like cracked. And when I was on the pommel, on the leather, you can feel it, like the plastic, because it was that bad year of equipment.
Yeah, I remember
the plastic was breaking under my hands, and I was like, the pommel's broke, like the middle of it is crunching underneath me. This isn't right. And at that time in 2018, like I won a European Championships. That I didn't have too much status behind me, but I was not scared to say, like, look, this pommel's broken. And he said, whoever the head judge was at the time, he was like, the pommel's broken. But everyone else knew this. They were like, I talked to them after the podium session. They're like, oh yeah, it was like broken all day. Like you can feel it crunching. I was like, say something.
Yeah.
So even there was kind of like a thought or a few words said to me by some coaches, like, oh, like, look at you getting the pommel changed out for podium training. And it's like a little bit of that, even from coaches from other nations, where you're like, what? Like, they were almost kind of saying to you, like, how dare you, more or less. So I think it should always be in the benefit as a gymnast, and there should never be kind of like a fear or stigma around bringing up issues.
I love that you are repeating that phrase, because that literally, for people that don't know, like in the code of points, if there is a decision and it's on the line and you're not really sure, the code literally says many times, for the benefit of the gymnast, that is how the decision should go. And I love how you're emphasizing how that should extend to the whole ethics of the sport, but especially when it comes to equipment. Like I think about how at Liverpool, how the ceiling was leaking onto the beam, and they kept just wiping it up. And then I talked to Jade Carey after, and she's like, yeah, I was literally about to do my front aerial and the water dripped right in front of my nose. And I was like, okay, well, I'm doing front aerial. And I was like, that's so unsafe. It is. Yeah. It really is. And I remember in Doha too, like so many people are talking about how people are complaining about the pommel horse. And I'm like, well, it's literally broken. Like no one should have to do gymnastics on it.
It's just I think it is just that kind of old school mindset of the sport. And it's maybe because of the age of the sport that there's so many kind of bad habits ingrained in it. And then even that kind of fear or stigma that the gymnasts feel is maybe projected onto them by the coaches, because 20 years ago there was no chance you could have said anything about the equipment, or there would have been too much politics involved. But I feel like now the sport is in it's in a very healthy place. It's in a really progressive place, and you constantly see that with the code of points being adapted. And although I don't agree with all of the rule changes, for the most part, I'm like, yeah, they're for it. Like, they're promoting the sport in the right way. They're changing routines to please the audience, to make it more fair. It's definitely a modern sport now, and it's very apparent that's the case.
So they just had the Intercontinental Judges Test, which is like the only time that you can test to be a Category 1 brevet, and there's only like so many Category 1s, like the highest level, best tester, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I heard that the margin for men to be a Category 1 is smaller than it's ever been.
Yeah, like I know that they are tightening things, and they're making everything a bit more rigid in terms of the Category 1s, but it's like it should be the case. As you say, like, judges should be experts at what they're doing. They should know every deduction straight away. They should know every, I know that they get the opportunity to look through the difficulty of skills and the value of skills, but like, they should know it. I've had some judges like ask me, I don't know, during a podium training or during a training session, they like do a handstand dismount on pommel, and they're like, "Is that a C?" I'm like, handstand dismount, like, they done 2 turns, it's an E. Like, how do you not know that? Like, there's been little moments like that, and that's like at an international competition where I'm kind of like, why are you here judging on pommel if you don't know the value of a handstand dismount? It blew my mind when I heard that. And it's, I to be fair, I don't know if they were on the panel for judging, if they were maybe, that was their first international competition away. It still happened, and I'm sure there are expert judges there, and there's judges that are super knowledgeable about their jobs, but then, it all it takes is 1 or 2 judges that have no idea what they're doing, and then that kind of messes up a score, and yeah, as you say, like a life for somebody.
This reminded me of people talking about how the culture of gymnastics has changed and like how it is on the floor at meets. And people said it's kind of more relaxed, and it's like people are a little more chill. Are there any examples of that you could point to? Either if it's like an example from Gymnastics Ireland, or if it's something that you've experienced at a Worlds or Olympics or World Cup.
So I guess, since you mentioned Gymnastics Ireland, like, it's an interesting dynamic with myself and them, because they are somebody who really values the athletes themselves, and it's something that I've come up in kind of like the Sport Ireland, Team Ireland's system, and talked with other athletes from different sports, and they're like, I've never actually met my CEO, and these are Olympians. Like, I've never met the CEO, never seen them before. Whereas like the CEO for Gymnastics Ireland would be completely open to meeting with me, talking about issues. If I wanted something done differently, he'd be there for me. Like, it's a really good relationship in terms of that. But then other sports would be a lot more closed off. They'd be like protecting that kind of space, like nobody should talk to the CEO, which I feel like is ridiculous. And it's certainly getting kind of the take from the athlete is just as important from any coaches or support staff. That's the finish line is the athlete in that kind of system. That's the main priority. So why wouldn't you kind of hear out each athlete as well? In terms of international competitions, I know that there's a big emphasis on like the athlete reps, and kind of every world championships, I know that there's some kind of meeting around electing an athlete rep, and then just giving suggestions generally of of what could be different. And I feel like the FIG are actually really good at that, where they listen to the coaches, they listen to the athletes, and it can be done formally or informally as well, which is quite nice. You can often just be chatting with one of the head judges, and I for example, like I could casually bring up like, I hate the one leg balances just if he's standing next to me, or you never know. It can be, and I think it needs to be like that. Like, it shouldn't really be this like, you can't talk to me because I'm up here and you're just the athlete. I feel like that's kind of been squashed now, thankfully.
That's good. You're just casually standing in the elevator. These scales, they're not it.
That's what I gotta tell you something.
Let's do a bonus, because I have some ideas. More full twisting Shoshinovas, a dramatic dive roll. That's what I would like to see. Like, let's have a real stag jump, a hitch kick with pointed toes. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
Have you been invited to any of the FIG things? Like, I know Watanabe, either the formal like trip somewhere, or Watanabe, I know during Paris was inviting different athletes to come up and sit with him and like Thomas Bach some days.
I remember in like 2022, they had kind of like an athlete panel at one of the, just at the Worlds. And I feel like it's really nice to kind of extend that invitation, allow the gymnasts to be a part of the organization. And feel like they're a part of that team, rather than like FIG being this entity and then the athletes being something else.
Yeah. Oh, it was so crazy because like Emma Spence like spoke at one of the things and then competed later that day, and I was like, how did you do that in the same day? And she was like, oh no, it was super helpful. Like, I didn't think about the meet. And then they won the medal. Like, Canada won their historic medal, and I was like, oh well, clearly.
Yeah,
like,
that was one of my favorite competitions to watch for Canada. That was huge. I loved it. It was brilliant.
How is the Irish system, and how does it work, like, compared to the countries where they're like, here's your pension for life, you can retire, gold medal, you're done, put your feet up, you're good to go?
Yeah, so it's definitely not like that. But I will say that the financial support and funding for athletes across the board trying to make their way to the Olympics is very good and consistent, especially for your kind of preparation for the Olympic Games. And I've been on a comfortable salary since I was like 18, 19, since I started getting results. And that's kind of their way of showing like, okay, here's our support for you to keep going, keep pushing until that Olympic Games, and do your best in any way you can. And something as well that I don't think a lot of people see, you can, if you Google that, you could probably find out the funding money that Irish athletes get. It's a tiered system, like many countries are. But then on top of that funding money, you're also getting physio, you're getting doctors, you're getting psychologists, you're getting a training center to train in with no fees. I'm sitting in a house right now that is paid for or rented by Gymnastics Ireland. These are all the things that are like such a huge investment. And although, like, if you looked at the funding money, I'd be like, yeah, it's good, but it's not like out of this world crazy. Like, I feel like the support that you get financially in terms of the resources is exceptional. For Ireland, for Irish sport, it is absolutely out of this world. And the technology and support staff that they have in the sports institutes, everything around Olympic sport, it's really exceptional. But I mean, specifically after the Olympic Games, we wouldn't get like a huge amount of prize money. It's reasonable, but it's not something where you're like, sweet, pension for life, I'm set, that's me, I'm hardy. But you just got to make the opportunities. I was very aware of that when I was growing up. I was like, I'd even talked with Olympic champions who were kind of like, yeah, it's like there's not much after winning Olympics, honestly. And I kind of saw that as a real negative, because I saw the potential in an Olympic gold medal. It's like, no, actually, you can do a lot with that Olympic gold medal. when, you gotta get those deals signed, you gotta do the adverts, you gotta really put in effort to this industry that is actually really separate from your sport. And that's the advertising world, the showbiz world. You need to kind of place yourself in that community to then tee up for when that Olympic success happens, then you're ready to jump into that world of the opportunities I spoke about at the very beginning of this conversation. And I feel like people like Lewis Smith really inspired that in me, where Luke trained with Lewis for many years and would have relayed stories to me about what Lewis was doing right and how he made this success, made the most of it. And now I feel like I'm finally reaping the rewards of learning that system.
Yeah. That's so good to hear. Is that so? Like, you never needed another job while you were training. Like, you could just train.
Yeah. So, like, what more would you want? Like,
right.
Yes, it's not a stupid amount of money. I'm not mega rich, but literally, what more could you want than that? Like, that is so much stress off my shoulders. And the only difficult part about that is like to get the funding, you need to get results. And quite often, to get the results, you need to get the funding. So I'm thankful that I struck early success in my career and then allowed them to kind of trust me with my journey quite early on. Very grateful for sure.
Yeah, that's really good to know. It's always like just so nice to talk to athletes who've had a really positive association and relationship with their federations. Because so often, that's not the case. And that's when people are like, Jessica, can I talk to you for a moment, please? Let's discuss the situation. It's just so wonderful to talk to you all these years and see your like literal dreams becoming a reality and how successful it's been for you. And it's just like, I'm just so happy for you.
Oh, thank you, Jessica. Appreciate
You're very welcome. If there's anything else you want the people to know or any messages that you have, those are like all my questions.
No, not really. I mean, have I been on this before?
No, that's the thing. I was like, how have we never done it? Like, I've interviewed at a million meets and we've never done an interview before.
Well, it was a great chat, and thank you to all of the GymCastic listeners and fans who have supported me throughout the years. It's always been a pleasure to read the comments under the interview videos, and just kind of have a nice community of gymnastics fans, because I'm certainly a member of this community.
Thank you so much to Rhys. It was so great to talk to you, and good luck on Dancing with the Stars. I hope you win. You're totally gonna win. We have a little bit of feedback this week. If you have questions for us, send them to us at GymCastic@gmail.com. Number 1, fantasy podcast.
Brenna says, I just wanted to let you know that I love having the fantasy show in the feed. I've been participating in fantasy, well, kind of. I forget to set my lineups, and I sometimes care more about the gymnast than the score. Because of my lack of effort, I didn't think the podcast would be relevant or interesting to me, but I was wrong. I listened for the first time last week, and I loved it. It's full of info about gymnasts who might not make regular NCAA recap conversations because they aren't on a highly ranked team or other various reasons. Drilling down into the details was fun, and while I can't say it helped my fantasy team much because I'm lazy, it was a great listen. Thanks for adding it there for easy access. I'd encourage anyone who likes listening to more NCAA gymnastics talk to give it a listen, whether they're playing fantasy or not.
Climate change floor.
Oh, no. Okay. Mindy says, not quite the climate change floor routine that Jessica is waiting for, but the UW Huskies are having a sustainable green meet this season. Thanks for everything.
Yes! So proud of you, Dub.
I feel like we made that happen, right?
Yeah.
Didn't we assign Washington as like...
We did. They would be the ones.
Climate change your team theme?
Yeah.
So we did that. We're in charge of that.
Are skills different from D1 to D3?
Megan says, this is probably a silly question. It's not. But are there big skill differences / abilities between D1, D2, and D3 schools? Do the lower ranked teams just not have the required skills and connection bonuses needed and therefore end up with lower scores? I hope that makes sense. Thank you. In general, I would say the you definitely have like top gymnasts who were elites who have a large variety of very difficult skills that they could put in their routines going to top teams. When you watch D2 and D3 schools, though, I would say the big difficult elements are often still there. Like the big releases on bars are often still there. When we talked about D3 last week. Was that just last week or was it 9 years ago? Who can say? Time is an illusion anyway. You'll see a lot of big gingers. And the difference in the scores is usually like the handstands and the connection value and the requirements and up to level requirements and those kinds of things rather than having the big skills, because you will see very similar skills for the most part in terms of like your highest value counting skills, D1, D2, and D3. It's kind of the rest of the interstitial parts that I would say is the biggest difference between the scores, rather than can you do a layout step out series? Yes, you see tons of layout step out series on beam and D3 as well as D1.
Yep. I think my favorite thing about like the other levels is that you have people who are fantastic on one event, and maybe they're not like incredibly consistent on that event, but they're spectacular, or they have one like really, really cool skill that they would never be allowed to do if they were on a top D1 team, because maybe they aren't as consistent and they don't get it every single time, or it's too risky for the team. But at the other schools, they're just like, yeah, do it. It's fun. Try your best. Like we've seen so many fun skills. Like, Danusia Francis used to do the aerial on the small ways on the beam to
the transverse side aerial,
immediate full off the side of the beam. But that's been a common, like a side flip to, or an aerial to a flip off the side of the beam, a full a 1.5 for a long time in like the D2, D3 team. So you get to see more creative ways to get your credit. A lot more risks, and we love risk, originality, and virtuosity, and I feel like there's a lot of that, more risk in those other levels. Groin injury.
Grace says, I've seen a couple different comments tonight online. This is Friday. About
hold on, I forgot. Also, follow-up from this, are skills different from D1 to D3? We had a discussion about if gingers were easier or harder than other skills, and like why you see more gingers in like D2, D3. And overwhelmingly, many people got back to me and said, yes, it is easier. For basically the reasons I said is like everyone can do a tap swing or a flyaway, and it's basically a tap swing or a flyaway with a half turn catch the bar. So it's easier timing wise, and it has an easier base than a front giant to let go, fly up in the air over the bar, let go at the right time so you don't eat the bar. I mean, you can eat the bar on any release. A straddle cut catch, even anyone can eat the bar at any time. But yeah, so that was the consensus.
The consensus response. Good.
That I was right as usual. Okay, carry on.
Grace says, I've seen a couple different comments tonight online about people being upset, maybe a strong word, reacting to Allie's commentary about Lily Peterson having a groin injury and missing some practice this week. It seems that people are concerned that a groin injury is some sensitive issue or taboo to talk about. Maybe it's because I'm 2.5 months away from graduating medical school, but a groin injury is literally just a muscle injury of the inner thigh. I generally don't understand why this would be an issue. If she had a quad injury, no one would bat an eyelash. Male athletes have groin strains and injuries all the time, and it's not an issue. I just get really tired of fans reacting to things that are just normal in sports. We cannot keep getting upset about announcers or fans behaving in a way that is simply normal in sports.
Thank you, Grace. My God, Grace, I am going to print your letter on a plaque. I'm going to have it bronzed, engraved, and just like wear it on my back everywhere I go. This is normal sport shit. Like your groin is not, she's not giving away like a pelvic internal injury. She's talking about a groin. You pull your groin all the time in gymnastics. Everybody in gymnastics are pulled their groin. Like, I don't understand what's wrong with that either. That's if something is so sensitive, a gymnast doesn't want you to tell it, doesn't want to say what it is, they won't fucking say what it is. Like, Suni Lee does not say what her kidney disease is. And that's fine. No one needs to know. There's many gymnasts who've been out for injuries who've not told anyone why they're out, or illness or condition, and they're out for a while. Like, Jesus Christ. And it's Allie. Like, they trust her. And also, it's not a big deal. And the irony of people getting pissed about, like, oh, well, it's a groin, it's a muscle in your leg, so we shouldn't talk about it because it's near your pelvic area. Like, remember when, like, Jordan had the flu and then competed the next day? She couldn't, work out, and then she competed the next day and got a 10 on floor, and that was like praised. Oh my God, that's amazing that she did that. But you can't talk about like a pulled muscle. Like, no, it's when someone has a brain injury or a spinal injury or a neck injury. If you see someone land and slam their head on the ground and then they just get back up and keep going and no one stops them, that's a problem. That's what we should complain about. Safety stuff. Oh, thank you, Grace. These are normal sports things. But I do love that gymnastics fans don't know anything about other sports because they're so boring compared to gymnastics. My favorite thing. Spencer's watch along starts at 4 p.m. GymCastic.com. Then we're watching Florida versus Oklahoma, and College and Cocktail starts after that at 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 Eastern. The drink or mocktail this week is Dial It In.
Good advice. Topical, relevant. Let's dial it in.
Fantasy teams lock at 2:30 p.m. Pacific, and you don't ever have to miss an episode because there's a link in the show notes. We're going to add it to your calendar. So until next week, please remember to take up on gay, split on rights, don't wave on Ben Gay. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on College and Cocktails. I feel like talking to you is like fulfilling all of my like ancestors' dreams, and like talking to like Irish Olympic champion, and when they left Ireland in the 1800s, the potato famine, the now we've come for a full circle. It's just like, I'm just so proud.
Well, that's good. That's good. I feel like every American's got one of those stories, though, right?
Yeah.
But listen, it's amazing. I'm glad that your ancestors are proud.
It's not, listen, I don't claim to be Irish like other Americans. Be like, I'm Irish, I'm here. Be like, no, you're American. You grew up in America, you have an American accent, your ancestors, it's your ancestors. Yeah, but it is true. We are very proud of Ireland and Italy and all the other places we came from that were not here.